Week 1 of training camp is in the books, and the vision for the Utah Jazz 24-25 is perfectly clear. We're talking about it next on Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan. Bonus episode because you deserve it. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you to everyone who reached out. Had some personal things we had to take care of, so appreciate you sticking with me. I am back, giving you a Sunday bonus episode as a way to say that we're back. We've got everything scheduled between now and opening day. So thank you. Apologize. Had to take care of some things, and you're great. And the people who reached out, I took it always with the best intention. So thank you. All right, on today's show, we're going to recap week 1 of training camp. Monday was content day. We had a Friday game. We've kind of had a week of it. The vision is perfectly clear of where the Utah Jazz and what they are doing this year. The praise is universal to the second-year players and what they're gaining. We'll talk some more about Taylor and Keyonte and Bryce, and then we'll look at the role of the vets. Why Patty Mills? Why Drew Eubanks? Why Svi? What are we doing with all of that? And then Monday edition, I'll come back with you. We'll react to the game on Friday, though there wasn't much to take for that. We'll get ready for the Rockets. And talk about that. Plus, I have Thurl Bailey interviews from preseason and Mike Smith interviews from preseason that are in the can. So they are ready to come out for you this week. Just didn't get them to you last week. All right, let's get to it. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. Place a $5 bet and you get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed at FanDuel.com. Again, thank you very much for everything. All right. Justin Zanik, Danny Ainge, Ryan Smith, Will Hardy have all come to the podium in the last 9 days, and all have been very succinct and clear in the messaging about the 24-25 Utah Jazz season. And that is with intent, with direction, and with excitement. It is about finding out about 7 kids that are 23 years and younger, or 6 kids that are 21 years and younger. Walker Kessler being the oldest of this group. But it is very clear that where the franchise is going is to get a clear vision of the 7 players that are 24 years and younger. Walker just turned 23 about 70 days ago or so. So it's really 23 and younger. And what do we have? I thought the most honest quote from Justin Zanik was, I think he was talking about the 6. We're not going 6 for 6, and we need to find out. I thought that was the most honest quote of all, in that, hey, yeah, you want to believe you're going to, this is not how it works, right? We've talked about this a lot. After the 11th pick of an NBA draft, 50% of the players do not become rotation players in the NBA. So I think that, we're about to find out. Can Bryce Sensabaugh figure out how he's going to be an NBA player? Can Isaiah Collier figure out how he's going to be an NBA player? Can Keyonte George make the next step? Can Taylor Hendricks, with a newfound body we'll talk about coming up? It's really clear that that's where the Jazz stand as a franchise and are excited about it. Ryan Smith, I asked Ryan specifically in the press conference, hey, most owners get going and start everything by saying that they want to win a championship and that they want, that they're going to have a parade and all those things. You don't hear a lot of people saying that they want to develop young players for the next year. What's your excitement level this? And it was legit. You could feel it. There is an excitement level of, yeah, we're in it. It's dirty. It's hard. It's going to be a process. It's going to take some time, but we're in it. And we've now got 7 potential pieces to start building the future of the Utah Jazz with Lauri Markkanen. That you have a superior talent in Lauri Markkanen, who's now committed, wants to be here. and you can now start to build what are the young pieces that are going to be around him. Justin Zanik said it very clearly in the opening press conference. Our intent for the last 12 months was to do the Danny Ainge big game hunting, go out there and see what we could do. But as Danny Ainge said in the original quote, when that did not happen, we have now pivoted to a very clear direction of developing these next 7 players, these players. And the priority is learning what you have in those before you enter into yet another draft with 3 more first-round draft picks. I mean, that's what we have to remember going into this next draft, which makes that Karl-Anthony Towns trade particularly important to us of whether or not that trade was actually good or not, is the level is now you have 3 more first-round picks. Ours, which could be pretty good. Cleveland's, which all indicators, I don't think it's going to be a very good pick if they have the season everyone's anticipating. Kevin Pelton's estimations have them as the number 2 pick of the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference this year. We'll be doing, as we get closer to opening day, I'll do my points gained for the season, and I'll do my 240. For those of you everydayers that have been with me for the whole time and still are, thank you. The 240 is which teams have 240 minutes of NBA players on their roster that are playing. That's our first judge. That's how we then we go look at points gained and where they're going to be offensively and try to project defensively, but I don't have a very good system for that, in all honesty. So we're through the first week of training camp, and we saw the starting lineup on Friday night, which, not often does the preseason first starting lineup end up being the starting lineup. I have to look back on Will's track record of whether it has or not, but it was clear. Keyonte with Colin, Lauri and Taylor, and Walker Kessler. And the Walker Kessler, John Collins center matchup and how we were going to deal with that was one of the biggest stories of this offseason. In all the conversations I had with Craig and with Michael Smith and Thurl Bailey and Tim Lacombe, that was one of our big conversations. You'll hear Michael and Thurl coming up here is what about John Collins, Walker Kessler? That combination together did not work very well. How do we work those minutes? And so that in night 1, at least, was Walker Kessler starting. And we'll talk more about rotations in tomorrow's show. Walker has done exactly what I think you would anticipate a player does. He goes from year 1, where he had a lot of success, year 2, where you can call it the sophomore slump. You can say it was because of the rookie league or whatever, or the Olympics and whatever. And now he's come back, and you can see I always talk about this. I feel like what happens is that year 1 players come into the NBA and they do well, and then they also have areas where they just get their ass kicked. And then they go work on all of the things where they got their butt kicked, and they try to get better at everything. And then they come back in year 2, and they still can't do those things because it's the NBA, and it's too hard, and the players are too good. And in between year 2 and year 3, what they do is they go work on the things that they can be great at. And I think that's what we've seen Walker's. His body is much different. He's holding his space much better, at least in camp. And we'll see whether he does against NBA players. That was not the greatest. That last game was probably not the greatest model by which you're going to be able to see whether or not he actually has made huge strides. But if you look at one number on Walker this year that I think is going to be very, very important to him, it's what his rim finishing is. His numbers finishing within 5 feet of the basket slipped considerably last year from his rookie year. And so he's going to need to get better at that and become a better working at those things better than he did in the past. And that's how he's become stronger and bigger and looks better and a more forceful rebounder and be able to hold his ground and set bigger picks. All has to do with strength. And so we're seeing that strength from Walker. And we're seeing the direction of this franchise. The other thing we're seeing is universal praise for the second-year players. Big, important steps for the Utah Jazz, and we're talking about it next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. The Hyundai lineup of cars, absolutely fantastic. I'm driving the Ioniq 5, which is my personal car, and then I have the Palisade right now, which I love, and it's like It's like dreamy to drive both these cars. Every single time I drive a Hyundai, I have such a great, incredible experience with it and see how fabulous what they have done is and how they are able to kind of put all the bells, all the whistles at reasonable prices. That makes it great. And then you have the Murdochs who've been in Utah for 80 plus years and make sure you have the no regrets experience. That's the essence of what makes Murdoch Hyundai so great. If you're going to stop by, let's give you the VIP experience as a Locked On everydayer. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com. Let me know if you're going to Murray, if you're going to Logan, or if you're going up into Linden or down to Linden. Let me know, and then we can make sure we get you the VIP experience, and you can find out whether you're going to drive off the lot with a brand new Hyundai from Murdoch. All located in Murray at 4646 South State Street, in Linden and in Logan. Email me first at dlock09@gmail.com to make sure that you get the VIP treatment that you deserve. Today's show is also brought to you by BetterHelp. If you are looking for some therapy, convenient, flexible online therapy, visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Why BetterHelp? Well, I view therapy as performance enhancing. I go to the gym so I can get stronger and perform athletically better. I do various fitness things to be able to eat better and live longer, and work with therapy to try to make sure that I understand my own weaknesses and why I make the bad decisions I make so that I can get better at those kind of things. And why my brain might spin stories that aren't entirely true, but that can work that direction. How do I get control of that muscle, my brain, and figure it out? That's what therapy has done. Performance enhancing is the way I like to view it. So if you're thinking about it, it's time, then start therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. BetterHelp, convenient, flexible, online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Again, back, promise. And thank you very much to the everydayers sticking with me. And again, those who reached out, awesome. Much appreciated. Love the community that we have. Some of us have thought about this. Some of us have done this for a few months together. Some of us have done this for a few years together. Some of us have done this for 30 years together. So I definitely feel connected to you and appreciate it. I feel connected to you enough that I am sitting here, for those watching on YouTube, wearing my Sunday shirt. I don't know when I got this thing. It is got every piece of grub on it ever. It probably looks like it's straight out of 1980, and it probably is. But it's like my favorite comfy Sunday shirt. And so you're getting it today on a bonus episode of Locked On Jazz. So I have taken the time to go around to all the Jazz coaches, not all of them, but the coaches that I have good relations with or have a chance to talk to, and ask them a very simple question. Said, hey, I'm on the record on this. A lot of times I talk to these guys to learn and get background information and things like that. But said, hey, I'm 100% on the record here on this. I need to know from you whether or not who deserves flowers, who deserves praise, who are the players that committed, did some great work, and deserve, and I should be on the broadcast and giving praise. You don't want to, from my standpoint, I don't want to be praising the wrong guy, right? And I'm never going to ask who I shouldn't praise, but I don't want to suddenly say, so-and-so's been amazing in camp. And actually the truth is that and universally, so Walker's gotten a lot of mention. But universally, the second-year players have gotten the praise. And this is really an important stage in their career. So the first thing, let's just be completely honest about what you have here. You're drafting young kids who you see potential in. And when you're drafting Keyonte at 16 and Taylor at 9 and Bryce at 20, whatever it was, you're not entirely sure. You're not entirely sure, right? But the other thing is, you see the talent, you see the possibility, and you know there's just a tremendous amount of work that has to go into whether or not these players are going to be good or not. And then you hand Keyonte $20 million. And I think you hand Taylor $30 million. Not all at once, but it's guaranteed. They're getting it. So you're handing a 19-year-old $3.8 million last year with another 17 to come in Keyonte. And you're handing a 19-year-old in Taylor Hendricks, I think last year was $5.6 million with another 20 to come. I think he has 25. 4-year 25 is where his rookie scale is, right? with a kind of feeling like they don't have to do a lot. They're probably going to make $60 or $70 million in their lives. They're both just distinctly average. It's crazy. So are they going to work? Are they going to work? You just don't really know that. Danny Ainge has some beliefs and systems and ways to try to get into mental stuff, but you don't really know. None of us have any idea what's going to happen when you hand a 19-year-old 20 or 25 million guaranteed dollars, or 3 or 4 in the first right away. And what the Jazz found out about Keyonte George and Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh is that they're going to work. Now, again, Justin Zanik, with one of the most honest quotes you'll ever hear, we're not going 6 for 6. But they worked. And they're different. Sitting across from them on content day, they were all different. I probably talked to Bryce the most of any of them, so he seemed the least different to me. And I thought Bryce had a level of maturity to him, but I think I've shared a level of like fear last year of what was taking place. But let me start with Taylor. First of all, Taylor's body is dramatically different. The picture, Nathan Harker, who's one of our producer directors of pregame and in-game, has this great picture of Taylor a year ago compared to today. It's amazing. Hopefully they show it on the broadcast. The second one is just last year when you interviewed Taylor, it was quiet. His head was down. This year, he's looking me right in the eye, talking to me, communicating, just so much more grown up, so much more confident, so much more mature. It's really cool. It's probably what I love about this business as much as being a part of, a team that wins a basketball game, is watching the individual development, the story of their road, to watch Taylor Hendricks, now a 20-year-old, he'll turn 21 in November of this year, become a young adult. He was really just a kid a year ago and probably scared and uncertain. Scared's probably too hard a word. Really uncertain. And without his twin brother or virtual twin brother, I think it is. Like, I think they're now they're either twins or within 10 months of each other. So like his buddy. And really just this year, he looked me in the eye, looked me right dead center in the eye, communicated right at me, held a conversation, really pleasant, really mature, really confident, really lucid. Awesome. On the court, he's much, much bigger. We'll talk tomorrow about his preseason game number 1, where he just was out there and didn't have an impact. But his body is dramatically different. His camp has been good. He is much, much stronger than he ever was before. He has put himself physically in a position to be able to play the 1,800 minutes that every dayers will remember we talked about weeks past, that he really has to play this year. For Taylor Hendricks to continue on a trajectory of success, he has to play games this year. That's a must. So I think that, there's the first one. Taylor worked. They have all been here since about July 1. And Taylor's body is considerably different. His physicality is considerably different. And we'll see whether his skill development, he's doing a lot of work on his shot. And I'm going to be curious to see whether it comes to fruition right away. Working on your shot is hard. Taylor had a pretty good 3-point shooting percentage from the corner, but not from above the break because of his shot and the trajectory. The longer he gets away from the basket, the harder it is for him to shoot. So he was talking to us about working on his arch a great deal in his shooting stroke and working with this machine called Noah. Working on your shot and then putting it into a game is hard. On Keyonte, the work's been amazing. And this has been what the Jazz were hanging their hat on all year last year, was his basketball IQ, his love of the game, the amount he cares, how much he watches the game. They talk about that all the time. That is coming to fruition. That aspect of Keyonte George is he committed to working to become better and make the jump. We'll see if he does. Again, no guarantee, but it's kind of like parenting. You have no guarantee your kids are going to turn out all right, but you do have the ability to put them in a position to do all right. And then if they do, they do. And if they don't, they don't. Like, it's not necessarily your fault as a parent if something knocks them off their track. But if you put them in the position to do it, Keyonte and Taylor put themselves, and Bryce have put themselves in a position to do all right. I don't know if that was a good analogy, but I think you got me. It's kind of your physical. Let's go with physical health as a 54-year-old. I got no guarantee that I'm not going to get bit by the big C or something like that along the way. But if I eat relatively right, work out all the time, stay active, I'm giving myself a chance. If I don't do any of those things, I'm not giving myself a chance, right? That's a better analogy. So these guys are giving themselves a chance. The other one on Keyonte that I just loved, personal value, judgment here, you can decide whether you think it has anything to it. Keyonte talked to Lauren Green on the new TV sideline report about going to Paris, going to London, and then he went to Finland to go see Lauri. Keyonte grew up in Texas. I do not believe he traveled much more than his AAU stuff. I don't think he was like world traveler. He gets access to $3 million, and he views the world as an opportunity now. And I thought that was a really neat growth thing. I'm going to go see more of the world. I'm going to go experience things. I don't know what's driving him with that. Keyonte's been a kid who he's talked about all the time. Like since 14, he was going to go to the NBA. That was his route. Well, when that's your route's not going to see the world. Well, now I think that's a huge sign of maturity, development, growth. Open your eyes. Going to Finland, different place, a little weird, to go see Lauri and spend time with him and build that relationship. And now they text every day. Really cool. So, as much as anything on the court, which the coaches are praising immensely about these guys, Taylor's interaction with me, Keyonte's storytelling. Keyonte also, by the way, was very quiet last year. Did not often kind of head down, not talking. This year, head up, much more communicative, more familiar, more comfortable. It's all the things. These things matter. But Bryce and Keyonte and Taylor have put themselves in a position that they may take some jumps this year. Or they've given themselves the opportunity with great offseason work. Bryce's body looks very, very different. He's got to do a massive game transformation. He bullied people in college, and now he has to learn how to not bully people. His defense, he told me his defensive movement is just so much better than it was before. And I think there's a real commitment by the Jazz, as we talked about in the first segment, to be able to get these guys to play. Now, how you get Bryce Sensabaugh and Cody Williams on the court at the same time is not going to be the easiest thing in the world when you have Jordan Clarkson also in the rotation. Well, they played a lineup. Again, we'll talk about this tomorrow. They played a lineup that I think was Isaiah Collier, Jordan Clarkson, Cody Williams, Bryce Sensabaugh, John Collins. I know why we're there. This might be one of those things that we have to suck up during the season in order to be able to find out about the 7 players and stay on point, onto the vision, and accept the fact that you're going to have some lineups on the floor that are funky and you're going to have some things that are weird. But that's a tough one because I don't know who the power forward is and I don't know who the small forward is. I actually think the power forward's John Collins. There's no center and there's 4 guards, 3 guards and a wing. But it might be what we have to do. All right. How do the vets fit in all this? That became clear as well in the opening week of training camp. We'll continue to talk about that as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get into all the action, all the fun, whether it's NBA or NFL with FanDuel. And right now, with the NFL season starting, you can get a big return on America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page when you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to look at the odds and see what's going on and see where you're going to get into the action at FanDuel. You can get involved in the WNBA playoffs if you want the whole NFL, obviously. But here's some of the NBA stuff that's going on. They do have the preseason games are on the board for you, but I think, you can do what you'd like to do with preseason NBA betting. I will leave you that to your own selection and your own choice of things. Some of the more interesting things, if you're interested in the NBA numbers that are floating out there, are the season-long futures, things of that nature. The NBA odds champions, Celtics plus 320, Thunder plus 650. Knicks are now number 3 at plus 750. 76ers at plus 1,000. Timberwolves 1,000. Nuggets at plus 1,100. Defensive player of the year, Victor Wembanyama, then Chet Holmgren are the likelihood. Rookie of the year right now is Zach Edey, followed by Reed Shepherd. Reed Shepherd will be in the arena Monday for the preseason game. It's all at FanDuel.com. So how do the veterans, Patty Mills, Drew Eubanks, Svi Mykhailiuk, all fit into what the Jazz are doing here? And the best line of all was the idea that pups can't raise pups. And when asking the coaches for who deserves praise, one of the players that actually has continually come up is Patty Mills. That Patty Mills has just a brilliant understanding of exactly what he's supposed to be doing here, what his role is, what he's getting paid for, and what his importance to the franchise is. And that is to help the young guys. Patty Mills is someone who's an undrafted free agent who came out of St. Mary's from Australia, turned himself into a 18-year pro. And at a key moment of his career, was out of the rotation in San Antonio on the year in which Ray Allen hits the shot and then Miami comes back to beat San Antonio. And in that offseason, dedicates himself, completely changes his body, becomes even more of a pro, and then becomes a major part of the next year's championship team. It took him, obviously, as it does most players, 6-7 years to figure the importance of that out, but he can now relay that message. So Patty Mills is one that the coaches have said to me deserves a lot of praise in what they're doing, and how they're playing and what's taking place and all that kind of stuff. Mykhailiuk is surprisingly good athlete, by the way. Like I don't, this is the European stereotype. We often don't think about these guys as being, elite athletic players. He's 6'7", 210, active, good shooter with some hops. It's important. I know this sounds silly. It's important when you're scrimmaging that you have good players to scrimmage against. Like I don't want to say what team, but I remember covering a team, not here, in which I was like, oh, this is great, except for we're practicing against ourselves. And our biggest problem was going to be that we were practicing against ourselves. Like, I was like, oh, this is a problem. You've got to have these. And Svi busts his ass in practice every day and in scrimmages. Wow. And his highlights them with regularity. So he's going to be pushing. Like if Cody Williams decides he wants to take a few weeks off because he's tired, like Svi's going to be right there. And if Bryce Sensabaugh decides that, yeah, this is hard, no, Svi's going to be right there. And at the same time, Svi's part of the Celtics championship team last year. He's also bounced around, and he also can kind of give you like, hey, by the way, like this is hard. Like I started my career and in Detroit, and after, got 3 games my first year, and started my career in LA and got 39 games there. And the next thing I know I was in Detroit. And then I got 56 games in Detroit. That was going pretty good. And I got 36 games in Detroit. And then I was in Oklahoma. And then before that, then I was in New York. And then I was in Chicago. And then I was in Boston. Sorry, the Chicago is Charlotte. But that's a good lesson. And Drew Eubanks will be interesting to me to see whether or not injuries are going to happen. The natural second lineup for me, honestly, is Isaiah Collier, Jordan Clarkson, Cody Williams, John Collins, Drew Eubanks. Now, that is Bryce Sensabaugh out of the rotation, and that does not hold on to the point of trying to find out about the players and the clear direction of where the franchise is going right now. It also just takes fatigue, injury, something else, slump for that to happen. But Drew Eubanks, again, undrafted, busts his butt, comes to San Antonio, plays 23 games, barely sniffs, plays 22 games, barely sniffs, works it up to suddenly playing 54 games. And then if you look at his last 3 years, he's played 71, 78, and 75 games. This is an NBA rotation big who is physically imposing and beating the crap out of people every day in practice. Will Hardy said he wants a physical training camp. He's getting a physical training camp because of Drew Eubanks. So Walker, with his new strength, is going to have to battle Drew Eubanks every day in practice. And Drew Eubanks is physical, strong, plays hard, does all those things, good passer, and works it. Filipowski is going to be battling up against Drew Eubanks. We haven't talked about Kyle much yet. And feeling that, I think Kyle's going to spend, the way it looks to me, Kyle's going to start the year in the G League, develop some of those skills and get some time. We'll see. Still a lot of camp to be said, but it just kind of lines up correctly. But for Kyle's going up against Drew Eubanks in practice every day, he's, oh, wow, right? Like Kyle's probably been the biggest guy on the floor most nights, being able to be physically strong. Well, now all of a sudden he sees Drew Eubanks. Oh, wow. Walker's seeing Drew Eubanks every day. Oh, okay. And Drew Eubanks can really play. So I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think it's noticeable that Drew Eubanks has played 71, 78, and 75 games the last 3 years. I would kind of suspect that this is where that he works his way into a rotation in some capacity. He's probably sitting at 10 or 11 right now in the rotation. And just when guys get nicked, we have enough flexibility in how we move people and the way we play to move things around. All right, that's my summation of week 1 of training camp. We'll talk a little bit on Monday's show about if we saw anything from the New Zealand Breakers, what the rotation was, what the combinations were. Get ready for the Houston Rockets tomorrow. Just wanted to give you a little extra bonus. Again, for those of you who've stayed with me the whole show, I thank you very much. For those of you who've stuck with me this last few weeks, I thank you very much. For those who've been with me for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's awesome. I love you. I appreciate it. This is a great, please do not take the last period of time as any sign that I don't cherish this or take this seriously or connect to you the way we always have. So thank you. You're awesome. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. This has been Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. If you're on video, we're sending you the Locked On Sports Today, a first ever national 24/7 channel. If you're on audio, have a great one. Check out Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast.